At one point, it was just like we were like the OK Corral. The chicken was over there looking. She was looking at me. I was looking at him, and didn't move because it's like she knew that I was trying to get him. This hen knew I was trying to get him, so it was kind of like I'm sitting on the ground. They're looking at me, sitting on the ground, looking at me like, okay, make your move. And so you have to be very strategic. Like, okay, do I fake them out? How do I get them?
You're drawing X's and O's in your mind.
Yes. And they're sitting there like, they watching me. Like, okay, what you gonna do? And that was, eventually I was able to get them, but it took a lot out of me, and then one of the ladies who was there, the older lady, she sat there and watched me go through all this and didn't say nothing. And then afterwards, she told me the simple way of doing it. And it's like, oh, why didn't you say nothing? She said, you just look so funny doing it. So.
Welcome to the Where Have You Been podcast. I'm your host, Bill Ream, and each week on the pod, I have conversations with incredible guests from all walks of life. Expect to hear funny, crazy, emotional, life-changing, and even sometimes life-threatening stories and experiences that will entertain and inspire you. As always, I appreciate your likes, subscriptions, ratings, and reviews wherever you are listening. It doesn't sound like much, but it truly helps the pod get to the ears of more people who may enjoy it. And check out the website, whybpodcast.com, for links to the socials where you can find pictures from the guests and their stories, and also buy merch if you're so inclined. Now let's get to this week's episode. Thank you for being here. Welcome into another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bill Ream. We've had plenty of authors on the show. We have even had someone in the film industry, but not many. And so let's change that today, shall we? I have another fantastic guest, as always. I have John on the show today. John, why don't you tell our listeners, if you would please be so kind, who are you?
Well, I am a father, a son, a brother, uncle, and a television and television film producer.
Excellent. And well, let me ask, where are you?
I am in Houston, Texas. I'm originally from Chicago. I moved here about 20-something years ago to work on a show for Fox. And when I realized I didn't want to be cold anymore, I never went back to Chicago.
Even if there is some wind in Houston, it's warm, right?
Yeah, it is. But you know why they call Chicago the Windy City?
I guess I don't.
The reason why they call Chicago the Windy City is because of the windbag politicians. That's nothing. The wind is very off the Lake Michigan. It's very heavy, but it's because of the politicians, not the actual wind.
I learned something today. My job is done. I'm good. I never knew that. So that's awesome. Thank you. This is not one of my normal questions, but I just have to ask you, Who has better food?
Okay, so that's a loaded question. I'm going to say this. Houston is probably one of the cities in America that has one of the most restaurants. When people traditionally try a new brand or a franchise wants to do something different, they usually come to Houston for whatever reason. So there's a variety of different restaurants. There's so many restaurants. Chicago, in my opinion, has better tasting food. It's almost kind of like the food has been tested already. And their presentation and their ability to add variety of food is, I would say, Chicago. So for tasting wise, I think the food is better in Chicago. But for variety, Houston has a much wider variety of different things.
Yeah, I heard somebody say recently on a different podcast that I happen to be listening to, they said, if your food isn't excellent in Chicago, you will not make it. So that makes sense. So tell me, you have your own business, correct? Business singular?
Yeah, that's correct. Businesses.
I thought. Well, do you mind telling our listeners about your businesses and what you have going on?
Well, they're all pretty much under the same umbrella. I own a film and television production company called London Town Pictures, Londyn. It's named after my daughter, London. And this encompasses film and television production, documentaries, commercials, music videos, and also music production. So we kind of do the whole gambit when it comes to actually delivering a full film or television documentary. We usually handle the whole gambit in-house.
Excellent. Is that something that was always a passion of yours? Did you kind of stumble into it? Anyone in the family in the business?
No. My father retired from Ford Motor Company working on the assembly line. My mother was a housewife. So no, it was, and I wasn't even trying to be a filmmaker. I was a pre-med major. I was a biology major. I wanted to be a doctor. And the summer that I had before I had to decide what medical school to go to, this production manager called me and said I left a message on an answering machine. And to this day, I do not remember doing that. But she said I did, and it was for this film called Scenes for the Soul. It was director George Tillman's first film out of film school. George going to do Notorious, The Barbershop, Men of Honor. He's done all these big movies, but this is his first film out of film school. I knew him from no one else. And so at the time, I was a manager at a parking garage, self parking garage, and I just lost my job. So I wasn't really doing anything. And so she said, "You want to come and interview for a second assistant director's position?" I went in, interviewed, had a suit and tie on, was all dressed up. And about 5 minutes into the conversation, he realized I couldn't help him do nothing because I knew nothing about film. But she called me back and said, "I really like you. I can't give you that job, but would you mind being a production assistant?" And I said, "Well, what does that entail?" She said, "We're going to be shooting 6 days a week for like 6 weeks straight. And it's like about 15, 16 hours a day. And the pay was $50 a week." And I said, "Yes, I'll do that." I don't know why. Just, you're young and no other
Yeah.
responsibility. You just kind of do stuff. And I worked on that. And I met another guy who didn't go to film school. He went to like some community workshop for directing. After that, we started doing music videos, and the rest is kind of history. So a lot of things in my life is just about a coincidence. I just happened to be at the right place in the right time. And sometimes the universe, people try to tell you what you should be. I was going to be a doctor because everybody said that that's what I should do.
Mhm.
And which is funny because I don't like people being in pain and I don't like needles. So I don't know how that would have worked out for me. But the
Jeez.
universe said, "I'm going to get you on track." And so here I am.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to listen.
Yes.
Yeah. So, have you another side question?
Mhm.
Any cameos? Have you done any cameos in anything? Put yourself in anything?
At the beginning of when I first started, I used to put myself in all the music videos. When I started every music video, I put myself in it. As I've gotten older, I try to only do it when it's necessary.
Yeah.
One of the first wide release movies that I had was called Red All Over. It's about gun violence. And in the story, it called for this dog to kind of be like this leaf that kind of like connects everybody together. He was a homeless, a stray dog. So when we went to go try to get a trained dog to do that, the nearest one was in Louisiana, and the guy wanted to charge me like $5,500 a day. We didn't have $5,500 for the dog. And
Mhm.
so we rewrote the script to turn it into a homeless man. The homeless man just happened to be out there. So I played the homeless man. I didn't have any lines. I didn't have to say anything.
Okay.
In the last couple of years, I've been pushed a little bit to try to do a little bit more, but I try not to insert myself unnecessarily unless it's like it means something. I just don't want to be putting myself in there. But I do like a very good example of cameos is Stan Lee. I
Mhm.
do like how he happens well, he's not going to do it anymore, but how he
Right.
happened to show up in the Marvel
Yeah.
shows and stories. We look for him because we
Yes.
know at some point he was going to be there. And so it's
Yes.
kind of sad that he's not there anymore for that particular cameo, but I do like that. And I may go back to doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It was a lot of fun, and a lot of times I wouldn't even think about it. I would forget, and I would go, "Oh, there
Yes.
he is. That's where they put him." Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's sad that he's gone, but
Yes, it is.
so all right. Shifting gears to what we're really here to talk about today. No, before I get to that, I apologize. Can you please tell people where to find you? I'd like to know if you have a website, some socials, anything like that.
So my social to reach me on social media is pretty easy. It's John Wayne SIII across all platforms, from Instagram to Facebook to Blue Sky, TikTok, LinkedIn. Pretty much is all the same thing, and I try to keep with that just so people can find me. They also go to my website, which is londontownpictures.com, which is LONDYN townpictures.com. I also own the regular one that says London Town Pictures, just in case people don't spell it correctly. It's going to take you straight to my website, just in case they don't spell it correctly. But if you Google me, John Wayne S. the Third, you should be able to find everything about me.
Smart man. Well done. Okay. So now on to what we're actually here to talk about today is travel. I'm curious before we really get into any locations or stories or anything like that. Was travel a thing in your life when you were young? Did it really start as you got older? How did that happen for you?
Well, I've always been adventurous. If either being reading adventure and stories, because I was a big fan of choose your own adventure books. I read every last one of them. The
Me
possibilities were
too.
endless.
I loved them.
As a child, we did. I'm
Have
sorry.
you watched? Did you watch the what's it called now? Black Mirror with the Bandersnatch.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. What a feeling of a throwback. But anyway, go ahead.
Yes. As a child, we did go on vacations, but my father, being a father, like we went to New York one time. We drove to New York and we were in the car, we were driving, looking at everything. He really didn't want us to get out because he was, all you hear about New York and everything. So he's very guarded about that. And so when I got older, I think that what made me be more adventurous about going places and seeking out new opportunities because I wanted to see. And if, what's the worst that can happen? There's a lot of stuff that can happen. But the way I look at it, I don't like to live in a world of if I could have, would have, should have. I'd rather live in a world of where I tried it and it didn't work and I know what not to do next time. I'm
Yeah.
cautious, but not to the point that I won't seek out adventure.
Yeah. That's great. Was there a moment where it kind of clicked for you and you went, "Oh my gosh, travel has to be a part of my life," or was it more about adventure has to be a part of your life and it just so happens that travel offers that to you?
So, because of what I do for a living, I travel a lot. And so I go a lot of places. And sometimes I get to see the places. Other times we pretty much airport, hotel set, come back to there. We do a lot of that sometimes. But I remember I was working for this record label. I was the director of international AR for this record label. And we went to London. The producer I was working with, although he was very famous, he hadn't been on tour in London, in the UK in general. And I remember standing in front of a Piccadilly Circus, looking at Piccadilly Circus. People don't know it's kind of like Times Square of the UK. So it's the same thing with all the lights and signs and everything. And I remember standing there looking at it and just amazed. And I stopped for a second. I looked to my left, I looked to my right. One was the agent and one was the producer. And I realized that every single time I think about this moment, they're going to be there. So that made me want to go and explore other stuff with people that I cared about. Not to say I didn't care about them, but I wanted to be that either with my wife, my child, or someone that was significant to me, so we can use that as a bonding moment. So I look to those opportunities as bonding moments with people that are important to me, because no matter what happens, we can always kind of go back to that moment where we were like one. And I also thought too, there was a bigger thing when I was sitting there thinking that if I fell down and hurt myself and died right here, how insignificant I would be. So the importance of understanding that you're so small in the universe and there's so much stuff to see and do, it made me want to go out there and see more, that when I do leave this earth, that I will have an impact on other people.
Yeah, that was one of so much of when we first met. I took away from being very excited about today, but that was one of the most exciting things for me because that's also the way I feel when I travel and try to experience things in ways that are more meaningful and memorable, I guess, for lack
Yeah.
of a better way to describe it. So,
Yes.
yeah. So, and again, I'm super excited for this. If you're okay with it, I say let's jump in. And I do have people that will list everything. I have people that'll just jump into a story. You can take it whichever direction you'd like, but I'll ask you, John Wayne S. III, where have you been?
I've been to all 50 states, Alaska, Hawaii, and even Puerto Rico. I've been to England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, France, Germany, Austria, Portugal, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Bahamas, Cancun, and Mexico City.
Yeah, okay. It's a decent list. No, it's a fantastic list. Um, is there a place that stands out to you as like one of the besides the Piccadilly Circus? Is there a place that like you just remember? Wow, this was just such an incredible experience, and let's start there.
I think going to Austria was you. The one thing I like about Europe is the fact that these old buildings date back. They have records of these who lived in these buildings when they first were built. That's
Mm-hmm.
fascinating to me. The ability to be able to say, Mr. Jones lived here in 1650 or whatever case may be, and you have records to show that, that's fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because in America, we're such a young country. Most houses up, 15, 20 years or whatever, they will get torn down. We have very few places where they're just real longevity. So the history is not there. I was intrigued about that in Europe and London in particular. But as we took the train to Austria and going through the mountainsides, it was just so picturesque. I'd never seen anything like that. You see stuff on TV and you see stuff in books and everything, but just going through the countryside and just seeing those rolling meadows and hills, that just kind of, I think that one of the things that ignited me about traveling, that there's such a big world out there. There's so many things and understandings. When you meet people every single day, they all have stories. And just to think about the massive amounts of stories that have nothing to do with me, have nothing to do with you. They're living their own life. Just them telling their story by itself is exciting. Now seeing these pictures in real life and seeing these colors come to life, that was very eye-opening for me.
Yeah. And so the only place in Austria that I've been, and unfortunately I haven't spent enough time to see, really the true beauty of it, but I've been in Vienna, and I can tell you, even Vienna itself is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And we were there Christmas market time, which I mean that just made it even more incredible.
Yeah. Everybody, all the decorations.
Yeah, and the stalls and the food and the music, and yeah, if anyone gets a chance to go to Europe at all during Christmas markets, it's well worth a trip. Getting off track, yeah. So I mean, is Austria a place that you have other memories that stand out to you, or we can just stay in Europe actually, since it's so vast?
Yeah, one other Austria was beautiful. I mean, I went with, at the time, it was an old girlfriend, and she had studied in Germany, and she had some friends in Austria, so we decided to go over there. But she could speak a fluent German, so that was that was really fascinating how she would just go up to people and just have these conversations. Another thing that probably comes to mind when it comes to Europe is France, particularly the south of France, where the Cannes Film Festival is held. And I remember at the time I was the president of a record label, and I'd taken some of the artists and some of the executives over to the festival. I said to them before we left, I said, make sure, this is before they had the euro, this is before they converted over to the euro. I said, make sure that you go to the bank and get some francs. Because we're going to need them. So they say, why? I said, because we're in France. You need francs. They said, okay, whatever. So we go and we're sitting on the south of France, right on the bank. You can see the river there. It's just beautiful. All the yachts out there. And we go to this little cafe. We order our food and they bring the checks. And I go in my pocket and I take out my francs and pay for it. And one of the guys puts $100 bill down. And the guy says, no. We don't take American money. He's like, why not? He said, because this is not America.
Yeah.
And it kept everything of me to not laugh, because I thought the arrogance of Americans to think that you're just going to go to another country and do that. But I just thought it was so funny because I had already warned him. So I think about that all the time. Every time I go to the south of France and I pass that, when I go to the festival and I pass that cafe, it always brings a fond memory of laughter to myself, because they just didn't think that you needed to do that.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I hope they learned their lesson at least.
I hope so.
Yeah. Have you gotten to explore more of France? Sounds like you've been there multiple times.
Yeah, I've got to explore Nice, which traditionally when you go to France, you go to Nice and you take the plane over to the festival. But yeah, to Paris. Paris is I don't want people in Paris to get upset with me, but it's not the cleanest city in the world. But the Eiffel Tower is beautiful.
Yeah.
The surrounding areas of this beautiful, and you can tell that they take lots of great pride in the Eiffel Tower for its significance. And even just local people, just, coming up to you and talking to you about certain things. I ran into a couple of people I asked questions about. I know some French, not a whole bunch. And I would have these conversations with them about just history and things of that sort. And they were pretty much welcoming me. They would answer my questions and things of that sort. France is the music scene is very interesting there too. A lot of good musicians in France, and just in the bread. The bread is delicious. Lots of clotted cream, lots of butter, and just the baguettes. It's like going to Italy and tasting real Italian food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And thinking that, what it tastes because you've been to Olive Garden or somewhere. And then
I'm
you
sorry.
go and taste it, and it's kind of like, no, that's, I don't know what I've just tasted,
Yeah.
you
Isn't
know?
it funny how you can, speaking of food, like you can have something and think, there is absolutely no way on earth this could ever be better.
Yeah.
And then you have it somewhere else at another time, maybe in another setting that just
Mhm.
makes everything perfect. And it's just like, oh my gosh, this is so much better.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. That is true. I mean, I remember as a child, I was a bit picky, and the only two salad dressings I would eat were French and Thousand Islands. I wouldn't eat anything else for whatever reason. And I remember tasting ranch as an adult for the first time. I think I overdosed on ranch for like 3 or 4 days.
Because you could put it on everything.
Yes, I did. And I was like, how could I not have been eating this all this time? What is wrong with me? It's like that. Speaking of food, one place that, and I don't want people from England to get upset with me about this, but that's probably one of the places that I did not like the food. I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's a little more bland, isn't it?
Yes, the mushy, there's state dishes, the mushy peas and fish and chips. I just, mm-mm. I had like I usually pack some snacks just if if I don't know where I'm, how, just I always pack some snacks. I usually take some honey roasted peanuts and a few other things. And I think that particular trip, I think I just ate peanuts
Oh
because
my gosh.
I couldn't really. It was every time they would have these receptions, and what they would serve would be like, what is this? Probably the best thing I had that was maybe the beef Wellington was good.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But other than that, what is this other thing they have? It's called pudding, something pudding. I can't think of the name of it.
Is it
That
a
was okay.
dessert?
No, it was a beef. It was a kind of beef dish, and I can't remember what the name of it was.
I have seen it. Yeah, I can't think either. I have
But
seen it.
that was okay. But those mashy peas, and I'm a fan of peas. That was just not. I was not very happy with that.
You didn't try beans on toast either, right?
No, I wasn't interested in that. Just the presentation by itself, I didn't understand the logic of that. But I like beans, but
Yeah.
not the beans on toast, and not for breakfast either.
No, no. Listen, and I don't, and I'm chuckling, and I'm not judging anybody on anything, and you're not either. It is what it is, what you're raised on, and I think that's part of it. It's this, you have memories of it, and this is what you're raised on. But yeah, the food, there's a difference. So tell me a little bit more about anywhere in England or the UK, because I really don't have much any experience there
Hmm.
of and actually I'd like to, if you did meet anybody there or just see anything extraordinary in any of those areas.
Well, I meet lots of people. You sit down and talk to people, and I usually talk to them about television because that's my world. And it was probably the first time I realized that a lot of the television shows that we have in America, either they've never seen them before, or we have in America is the American version of the British shows, like
Right.
Sanford and Son. It's a British remake of Stepford and Son. I think that's what they call it.
Interesting.
It's the same concept, guy in a junkyard, things of that sort, but he just lives in England. And so there's a lot of that. I am a big Doctor Who fan.
Mm.
And so the BBC is there. And so they have lots of things there. So meeting a lot of people who were just, because a lot of times in America, most people don't, outside of now it's on Disney Plus. Back in the day when I looked at it on PBS, nobody really knew it. And so as a child, I've been looking at it since I was 7 years old. And when I had a chance to the first time go to London and actually have a conversation with people who are my age who understood what I was saying, it's very amazing. The cultural differences was really amazing, So that's the one thing I enjoyed about being over there because of something that I was interested in and they could understand and embrace it too. I met a lot of people that also too, to put it in context, I'm traveling with a really very, very famous music producer. So the access to people and things was a lot different. And so
Sure.
people would respond to us a lot differently than probably with somebody who just kind of was walking down the street. And so
Sure.
it was some of a different experience. But then when we able to get and have to sit down and talk to people individually, it was, very nice to just understand different perspectives about their misconceptions about America. Like when I say I'm from Chicago, the two things they always say was Michael Jordan
Mm-hmm.
and Al Capone.
Yeah.
That was the two
That's what they
things.
knew. Yeah.
Yes. Al Capone and Michael Jordan, Al Capone. And then it doesn't help that my name is John Wayne. So
You're right.
Al Capone, basketball, so they would do that all the time. And I thought that was intriguing how strong American brands can be over there. But yeah, I really did. I really enjoyed having conversations with people just to understand their different perspective about culture and how they saw the world.
Yeah. How is Wales?
Old and cold at the time of the year we went, it was cold. It has the same, it outside of being on the countryside, it has a similar look as if in London with the buildings, but the bricks are a little bit different, and the people were they were more warm. They were a little bit cautious because they didn't, they don't know you. But they were when they kind of warmed up to you. If you went and talked to them, they would warm up to you, not necessarily come to you and say something, but if they were intrigued and they would come and approach you.
Yeah. And you were there for also something with film or music?
Yes, at the time I was the director of international A&R for a label through RCA. So I ran the office in the UK and in Japan. And so I was with one of the producers. He was on a DJ tour. And so that's the reason why I went to Wales. I don't really, if it wasn't for that, I'm not exactly sure if I would have took the drive over to
Yeah.
Wales.
Have you been to Japan?
I've not been to Japan. Asia and Africa are the two places I have not gone to. Those are on my list to go to. I have a trip planned for Marrakesh next year.
Okay.
So that'll get me into Europe. I mean, that'll get me into Africa, and then we'll see. I'm going to be for like 2.5 weeks, so let's see what I'll find.
Yeah. Excellent. Anything left like in Europe that stands out to you as, hey, we're sitting down having a beer or a coffee and we start talking about travel experiences that we've had that were just like, oh, I got to tell you this story.
I have one other experience being in Portugal.
Oh yeah.
Portugal, it was very hilly. I enjoyed it. I went there a couple of years ago. I was there for about 4 days before I was taking this cruise, intercontinental cruise from Portugal back to New York. So we're going to go a whole bunch of different places. And as I think about that, there are a whole bunch of places I did not mention when we started, but that's okay because we went all these different places on the cruise. But Portugal was very nice. I got to really talk to some people, and I tried a lot of different foods that I traditionally would not try. That was one guy we stayed in an Airbnb that was hosting an Airbnb, and he came in. And most of the time when I stay in an Airbnb, I don't necessarily talk to the people who actually own it. But for some reason, he came over and he sat down and talked to us, and he told all the good places to be. He seemed to be really excited about America because he had never been there before. So he had lots of questions about America and the difference between what's on television and what the reality is. And so that was fascinating. It reminded me of a conversation I have an uncle who's from Nigeria. And he said that when he was young, they have this saying that the streets in America are paved with gold.
Yeah.
So he literally thought that. He thought that all he needed to do is to come here to America. Once he gets off the plane, he can just pick up all the money off the ground and he'll be okay.
Wow.
He thought that. Yes. And so when he came here as a young man, he couldn't wait to get off that plane. And he got there and he realized it was a metaphor. It didn't really mean that. At first, he was a little bit disappointed, but then he understood what was going on. But he thought that as a child that, he was just going to pick the money up and that was going to be it. He was going to be saved, I guess. It seems funny to us, because we understand what it is. But to other people, the way they perceive America, they only get their information from television and maybe some print here and there.
Sure.
So just like we have ideas about, cultural things over there that we don't understand. So it's always television can kind of distort people's understanding of the world around them. And it's important that we travel so we can see for ourselves and we can understand for ourselves. It's nothing like it's great to see a television show about the Eiffel Tower. But it's another totally thing to actually visit Paris and see the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
just like the other wonders of the world, going to Egypt. My parents are very extensive travelers, and they went to Egypt a couple of years ago, and they're showing all these pictures. It's amazing. I'm just looking at a picture, and I'm amazed by the picture, and so you look at those. It gives you the opportunity to really go out there. And a lot of times people feel like they can't afford it. I can't afford to go, but you can. And the way things are now, you don't have to pay it all at one time. You can pay over time or whatever case be, you can work something out.
Hmm.
But before you leave this earth, you have to see something outside of your own understanding to really live and really understand what the world is around you. And because the more that you stay in that box and understanding this is the world, it's just not. It's just not. There's so much out there to
Yeah.
eat, taste, and experience.
Yep. 1,000%. And honestly, you can take it one of two ways. It can be the best and greatest thing to ever happen to you. And so I would say do it as soon as humanly possible. But that can also make it the worst possible thing if you don't have the means to do it often, because if it really takes hold and you really realize how much there is out there to explore and learn, it can be tough. It can be, but you just got to make it happen. I think we
But you know
agree.
what? Using that same thought process, we as Americans, we spend a lot of money on stuff that's not necessarily we don't necessarily need. And a lot of times, if you have that experience and you realize how it's important to you, you'll start to prioritize what's important to you.
Sure.
Do I really need to get Starbucks every single day? Do I really need 8 pairs of these pants? Do
Yeah.
I need this shoe in all these colors? Do I really need that? Or do I want to have an experience? Because no matter what happens to your experience, it's always going to be there. Nothing or no one can take the experience away. Bad, good, or indifference. No one can do that. And once you've seen things with your eyes, once you experience it with your heart, there's nothing anybody can do and take that away from you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was being a little silly. I mean, I don't think there's truly any negative, to be honest. It's only positive. And yeah, like, do you need to spend $250 a month on cable and
Yeah.
Hulu and Netflix and all that stuff?
Yes.
Yeah. Once
Yes.
you realize you can make some sacrifices.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me about Ireland.
It is England with an accent.
Okay.
I guess
Except
they
is
have an
the
accent in England too, but it's
yeah.
they're very rugged people. They're very strong-willed, and very strong people. But they were very welcoming. A lot of times I couldn't understand what they were saying, to be honest with you. And
Yeah.
this is before you had to Google Translate, and you could just put the phone up
Yeah.
and Google would
Yeah.
translate for you. So you had to do a lot of listening, like real listening to people, like having a real like listen to what they're saying. And a lot of times, even with language, you can understand context clues when people are talking to you.
Hmm.
Just being in the moment and really understand what's happening, you can get context clues to kind of understand that. But it's a beautiful country. It's a country. The rolling meadows, the food was pretty good. I didn't really necessarily have any problems with it per se. I like potatoes,
Hmm.
and a lot of other rustic stuff. So it was a very good, if you're a meat and potatoes type person, it's a good place for that. It's very meat and potatoes type. But it was a good experience. But once again, I was with traveling with somebody who was a little
Yeah.
famous. So that kind of like, we see a variety of the world differently. The times what I did when we were traveling, I would go sneak off and I would just have those experiences by myself. They were interesting. I got to read and ask people questions and just sit sometimes, just sitting in the cafe and just watching people, or sitting somewhere on a bench and just kind of watching life go by, seeing
Yeah.
people living their life. That's always amazing to me, no matter where I'm at, that all these people have these different stories that have nothing to do with me.
Yeah. Can you tell me anything of that? Tell me something that happened to you that I can't find on Google.
I remember once I got lost, and this is before we had the Google would tell you where you go. I got lost and I didn't know I didn't know where I was, and it was getting dark. And I asked a couple of people, but I couldn't really describe where I was staying at. And so I remember sitting on the bench and just trying to remember and figure out. And this lady came up to me. She was selling flowers or some, I can't remember exactly what she was selling. She came up to me and I just said how I was, doing. I said I'm okay. I'm a little lost and I can't remember exactly how to get back to this particular place. And she looked at me She looked at me for a period of time. She wasn't saying, she's just looking at me. She said, "Are you American?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Most Americans are they stay over at this particular hotel in this particular area." And she gave me a very detailed description of how to do it, how to get back. And so I thanked her and I got up and I went to go walk away and I went to turn around to say something to her. I don't know where she went.
What?
I don't know where the lady went to, but she gave me the correct directions on how to get back to where we were staying at.
And poof.
Yeah, she was gone. So she went on with her life. She went into a store or something, and it was
Yeah.
kind of like it was getting dark, and I didn't know exactly where I was going. And she gave me the direction. I kind of took off with it, but I went to like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I should have said thank you." And I turned around and she was gone.
That's incredible. Like she was sent there.
Yeah, like her purpose was to come and say, "Hey, you need to." And she was an older lady. She was moving really slow, so it was like, why did she just want to stop and say something to me? I guess you could see on my face that I was kind of like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, but also for her to be gone that fast is.
Yes, it was very interesting considering the fact that when I saw her, I could see her out of my peripheral vision. Well, coming over, it was like really slow, and I didn't think too much about it. And she came and said something to me, so that was very interesting. So she was definitely a godsend.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love stories like that. I want to do something that we don't do a lot, which is talk about the United States. We don't talk about the United States very often, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
But is there anything we missed from anywhere else outside of the U.S.? And I'm kind of including Puerto Rico in the U.S., even though I also consider it to be outside of the U.S. in a way. But anything more like that, anything that's just like a super meaningful memory to you that, again, something that not just a description or something that I could find on Google, but something that just really touched you or that you'll just never forget?
I have a picture from when me and my daughter, when she was young, we were in Hawaii.
Mm.
And we were walking. I can't remember which volcano it is, but we were walking, holding hands, walking up to like the top of the volcano. And my wife at the time took a picture of that. And it for a long time it was my profile picture on Facebook. But I remember being in Hawaii, and one of the things that I loved about it was something about waking up and just the sun shining. I'd never been in such a beautiful place that it was just beautiful and it just felt good to wake up. And me getting that picture of me and my daughter, every time I look at that picture, although I mean she's 17 now, she's about to go to college, but I remember her that way. I remember us walking in that moment, and I can feel the emotion every time I see that picture of us holding hands walking up the mountain.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a powerful memory that I will never forget. I think she probably had to been like 5 or 6 or something like that. So, I mean, she's grown now she's big now.
Yeah.
But for my mind, that she'll be that age forever every time I look at that picture.
Yeah. That's so great. And having kids, I get it. I get it completely, especially mine are all gone. Geez, I'm kind of stuck here because I want to jump into Puerto Rico and see what kind of experiences you had there. Not even necessarily with film and music, but obviously we can touch on that if that's obviously what brought you there. But yeah, let's just go there.
So I went to Puerto Rico. I didn't go for filming thing. I went for a vacation. It was a getaway for me and my ex-wife at the time.
Oh, I was just going to say excellent, like that you went on vacation. That would have sounded like I was saying excellent. You're getting away from your wife at the time. And I didn't mean it that way.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. There's a reason why we're not married, so it's okay. But I remember I didn't know what to experience from Puerto Rico. Honestly, when we got off the plane, I did enough research. I'm one of them kind of guys where if I'm going to go somewhere, I really do research and look at like places to eat and stuff to see. I really didn't know what to think. The biggest thing I wanted to do, the idea was that there was a rainforest on an American territory. I wanted to experience the rainforest.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this baseball stadium, big, humongous, multi-million-dollar baseball stadium that they have games there, but nobody goes to. Like empty. Just imagine having a baseball stadium in your city and they're having a game, the lights are on, but nobody's really there.
Well, I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and so I know that all the time. All the time. And there's probably some tie-in with Roberto Clemente as well. So
yes,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we can tie this all together and wrap it up with a bow.
Yeah, everybody in Pittsburgh is like, what?
Look at our record.
Hey, you know what?
They're
Let me
they're
tell you
flying
something.
they're flying banners over the stadium, literally saying "Sell the team, sell the
Are
team."
you really? Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. Well, everybody has their day. I mean, really,
yeah,
everybody can't be number one. At some point, number one had to be number 30. It's just the way it works. So you'll have your time. Speaking for somebody coming from Chicago, I'm a Cub fan.
yeah.
So,
I used to be a Red Sox fan, so I know
okay. Yeah.
the heartbreak before the good.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a small root for you next time I see a game. I'm going to
Thank
root for
you,
you a little bit. All right.
thank you. But yeah,
But
yeah.
Puerto Rico, I wanted to see all those things. And one of the things this is a funny story. I'm sure my ex-wife wouldn't like this, but I'm going to tell it anyway. We were going to go before the baseball game. We're going to go to get something to eat. And I decided I wanted to go to Popeyes because they have Popeyes there in Puerto Rico. And I was going to order everything in Spanish. I was going to speak the language and order my food. And I told my ex-wife, I said, look, when we go in there, I'm going to order our food. I'm saying it all in Spanish. She's like, okay. I said, so I had practiced my man, looked at the menu, so I'm saying like this. So we stand in line and we go up to the counter. As soon as I speak, she starts to tell her order. And I'm looking at her like, I just said I wanted to order for us in Spanish. Why did you do that? And the lady looking at me, it was just so funny. And I just went on and spoke in English and just told her what I wanted.
You didn't even get to throw out a pollo?
No, I didn't even get that far. And I was just sitting there, lady saying, how can I help you? And I was like, okay, well, man, I got this. And then I started, and then she said something. And I just looked at her like, well, why would you? I was going to order, but forget it. I'm sure the lady was looking at me like I'm crazy, like, what's going on here? Do y'all want to order? I just went on and just ordered. So every time I think about Puerto Rico, I think about that particular experience. But I loved Puerto Rico for, although we went to Popeyes. I loved it for the food, but I also loved it for the cultural. We had this neighbor who was, we rented an Airbnb, and the neighbor was next door. The lady who owned the place, I think she was somewhere in Europe or Spain or somewhere. And so she would, rent out a house to vacationers. And so the lady next door, she wanted to make sure that we were okay. And so as soon as she see us driving up and we park and everything, we'll go in the house and she'll say, John. And I said, yes. And then we talking basically through the house.
Yeah.
And she's like, how was sightseeing there? I said, it was good. And she's like, okay, did you go to such a place? Yeah. And we're screaming back and forth. I'm sure other people in the neighborhood can hear. And she would do this every single day we came back. I had to do this check-in with her about what yeah. And the crazy thing about it is that I never physically saw the woman.
Oh, no way.
All she did was her voice, because the first time she did it, I didn't know where it was coming from. She's like, oh, I'm next door. I'm blah, blah, whatever her name was. And, I just want to make sure you guys get it. I said, oh, we didn't have a problem. And so that's what we do. So through the screen porch, you can hear we having these conversations, but I never physically saw the lady. Every day we'd go in and she would do this screaming thing at me about what we did and if everything was okay.
Would you have been worried if you came home and she didn't do that?
Yes, that would be very interesting. I'd be like, hey, are you okay over there?
That's great. Did you go to Old San Juan at all?
Yes, we did. We went to the what do you call it?
The fort.
The fort. We went to the fort. We went to downtown. It's a very brick, everything is brick there. It's not a lot of wood and things of that sort. It kind of reminds me of like Chicago. Chicago is a very brick city because of the Chicago fire that burnt everything down, and then they built everything up back in brick. So most of the buildings have brick that people live in because of that. So Puerto Rico in general, it's a lot of brick. It's a lot of masonry. So that gives it an old kind of feel to everything you see and how you experience it.
Yeah. I love Puerto Rico. I thought for a minute about maybe getting a place in Puerto Rico. I just would worry too much about the hurricanes, I think.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful and I can't wait to go back again. I have some really incredible stories from being in Puerto Rico, but I won't bore people with my own stories. Do you have anything else?
When people ask me about Puerto Rico, and forgive me, people from Puerto Rico, what I'm about to say, they ask me how Puerto Rico, I said, this is how you can describe Puerto Rico. You ever go to a friend's house and their house is in the middle of construction, and they say, "Hey, come back in a couple of weeks. It's going to be all fixed." That's Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
It's on ever construction. Everywhere we went, somebody was constructing something, fixing a building, fixing a road. Everything was like in the middle of construction. And I would imagine the hurricanes don't help that.
Right.
If you build up a house of cards and every time somebody's blowing it down, you got to build it up again. It's like you're never going to get to that particular point to where it's just going to be, it's going to look great. It's a constant in motion city.
Yeah. Yeah, but I still think and you'll agree there's so much beauty there. The people are beautiful. There's some really seriously fantastic food.
Yes,
and I love Old San Juan, the colors and the houses, and so I really enjoyed my time.
Do you go to the rainforest?
We did not go to the rainforest. We actually what we did instead is we stayed a few days on the second island off the main island called Vieques. Which was magical. Wild horses running around on the beach, and just and their way of life was even just a little bit different. But talk about ingenious and awesome. They pipe water under the sea from the main island to the little islands, so you can drink the water and everything. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was really wonderful to be in such a small place. And then we went to the what's it called, the bioluminescent bay, and got to kayak at night, when you run your fingers across the water and the it changes colors and glows, and it's just so magical.
Did you like they have this pond there where you put your feet in and the fish give you a cuticle?
Did you do that? I did not.
No, my ex-wife did. I was not interested in putting my feet in there. That was not going to happen. I just and she was like hooping and hollering while they were doing it. And I thought it was funny, but to put my feet down there and let them do it, oh, no.
I don't need my feet to be that soft.
No, it's not. I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Anything else Puerto Rico that touched you or whatever before we head to the U.S. or wherever else you want to go? This is your show.
Yeah, Puerto Rico is one of those places, just like Hawaii, when you're going on a trip for a extended period of time, in my opinion, the saddest day is the first day, because you've anticipated the trip so long, and then now you realize you're only going to be here for a week or two. And so sometimes trip traveling and planning is probably more exciting sometimes, because when you get there, every day that takes away, it's only so much you can see in 24 hours a day, so much you can see in 7 to 14 days. And you can't really, because you're trying to see so much, sometimes you don't get the opportunity to really experience stuff. And so I'm always sad the first day, because I was like, it's almost over with.
Yeah.
But leaving Puerto Rico and Hawaii too, it's almost like I was leaving part of myself there.
What a great way to put that. Wow. Guess you got to go back for it, huh?
Yes, I have to go back and create more experiences with maybe my girlfriend now, or some, or my brother or something like that. I have to create new experiences, but definitely I need to go back. I've been trying to get to Cuba for the last couple of years, when they lift the embargo to where we can go there. And the year I was going to go for my birthday, and they put it back on. So I never got to go to Cuba, and I really want to go there, because that's another one of those places where they're just ingenious, just like you said, the whole thing about piping water from the mainland over to the islands. It's a place that has not been able to prosper like that. So they're rebuilding engines and old cars that have had on the island for years. How ingenious you have to do that just to keep things running. Old refrigerators and things of that sort.
Yeah, they have no choice.
Keeping running, and it tells you a lot about my idea before about the things you actually really need. I'm sure they would love some brand new refrigerators, high efficiency, things of that sort, but they're still living, they're still surviving, they're still experiences. For myself, the more you have, the less joy you have, because you have to, when you get so much, you have to try to protect all that. But when you don't have as much, to protect, and so you could be in the moment. You don't have to be guarding and holding stuff back.
Yeah. It's okay to be a little more simple.
Yes.
Live a little more simply, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's head to the continental U.S. if you don't mind,
Okay.
as we're creeping a little close to an hour, and I want to make sure that we touch on some places that you've been that maybe again we can talk about whatever you want as far as whether it's traveling for business or traveling for business that turned into some leisure and you just had some really cool experiences somewhere. Do you have like favorite cities to go to in the US or?
I used to like LA, not always necessarily for business, which I do go to LA a lot for business, but I like LA because of I don't know, something about waking up in LA is always beautiful. The one thing I don't like about LA is that it gets cold at nighttime. I remember when I was about 17, 18 years old, my mother sent me and my brother to California to stay with one of her friends for a couple of weeks. And I remember going into the house and we put our bags down and she said to us, "Here are some blankets. You're going to need them later on tonight." And I'm looking at her, I look at my brother, I said, "This lady crazy. We're in California. What do we need blankets for?" And I tell you, about 7, 8 o'clock at night, I was pulling for those blankets. I couldn't find them fast enough. It gets cold in LA at nighttime, and that's not what they are. So they have the suns. It never rains in Southern California. It's beautiful in Southern California, but at nighttime, it gets very cold. And so that's one of the reasons why I do not live in LA because I do not like to be cold.
Yeah. Well, plus it's very expensive.
Yeah, it is. Yes. But it's relative to, wherever you are. Like I live in Texas. And in Texas, the cost of living is much cheaper than it is being in Chicago. So what they pay people is relative to here. And just like in LA, it's relative
Sure.
to there. And so it's expensive. And it's like when you go to Hawaii, it's very expensive in Hawaii. It's like if you go to McDonald's and you buy a drink for $1, it's an extra dollar on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has an extra on top of everything. And so you have like that mainland shipping things over to Hawaii, the extra tax that they tax on the stuff, So it's kind of relative to where you are. But LA would never be a place that I live in because I do not want to be cold.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, wherever you are, you live within your means, right? And also, probably in Hawaii, I'm going to guess fresh fruit, fresh vegetables,
Yeah.
maybe some seafood probably isn't as expensive because it's there.
Yeah.
But they have to import so much.
Yeah, my brother's wife is from Guam, and everything in Guam it's a small island, so everything is kind of compact, and so they grow a lot of things in their gardens. They grow a lot of things that they eat themselves, So you don't have a lot of the idea of shipping stuff. They get things from the mainland, they get things from Japan, but a lot of stuff that they eat and consume is based off of what they have on the island.
Yeah. So back to the U.S., you've been all 50 states. What jumps out at you as this was one of my favorite trips that I made or adventures that I did? Are you adventurous?
I am. If I have the time, I will go, especially if I'm on a work trip, I will go out and walk around. I'm a person who doesn't like to necessarily eat the restaurant that they're pushing you to. I like to try to eat where the locals eat at. And so I usually try to seek out that. Like if I go to Las Vegas, I usually don't eat on the strip. I usually try to find places that where the locals eat at because I know that if the locals eat that, it's going to be really good.
Right.
Because they're going to embrace it. So I try to do that. Even going to New York, because there's so much food in New York. Being such a dense place, you really have to seek out places that are not tourist traps. Stay away from the town square, the Times Square and Rockefeller Center, things of that sort, and try to go to the Sohos and things of that sort, try to find new ideas and food. Also, too, just even going across the river to New Jersey, they're so close to each other that you can get a lot of good food and have a lot of experiences from both sides, not just being in New York. Probably the place that I really do enjoy going to, obviously, it's my hometown of Chicago. I do really enjoy going to Chicago for a variety of different reasons. I just try to go during the summertime when it's not cold outside.
Yeah.
I love the food. I like the idea of Chicago that there's always something to do. There's always some event that the city is either sponsoring or some type of festival or neighborhood fair that you can participate in. A lot of times people, you live in Houston, they have events, but they don't really have a lot of events. Unless it's downtown, they don't really do a lot of stuff for people going into the neighborhoods. People usually stay in their own neighborhoods. But in Chicago, it's nothing for someone on the north side to go to the south side, someone from the south side to go over to the west side to experience food or an event or experience. And so that that is probably the best place I like to go to, and I like to spend time there when I can. I just don't go in the wintertime.
Yeah. Were you going to say there was somewhere else besides Chicago that's one of your favorite places to go?
I do enjoy Wisconsin,
Mm.
particularly Milwaukee. I think I just like the people there. Always been really welcoming. Another place that I like Detroit, but the only reason why I like Detroit is because Windsor, Ontario is across the river. So
Okay.
whenever I go to Detroit, I always go to Windsor to go over to Windsor. So Detroit is great, but I like going over to Windsor.
Could you tell me about Windsor and anything you've experienced there?
It's just, you know what, Detroit, it's a nice city. It's a very urban city. And it's amazing how you have the tale of two cities on the riverbank. When you go to Windsor, it's an urban city, but it's a more, maybe because it's Canadian, it's a more relaxed atmosphere. It's a little bit more open, and people seem to be a little bit friendly, especially if you go away from the riverbank, where the tourist traps are, and you go into the city. They seem to live a little bit more relaxed lifestyle. So it's kind of like Canada, but it's kind of like Detroit, but relaxed without all the hustle and bustle. But at the same time, the urban feel, but also a welcoming environment that people are open, to have you come over there.
Yeah. Well, tell me a couple of, before we get close to doing the final five questions, if you can think of some, tell me some. And when I say personal stories, I don't necessarily mean something that you just wouldn't tell anybody because it's so close to you, but some personal stories that of any of your travels or experiences you've had anywhere. We'll go anywhere in the world that we
Mm-hmm.
haven't touched on yet.
A personal story. Um, something that I want the world to know.
Nobody's listening.
I remember I've been to Jamaica a couple of times,
Oh, I forgot about Jamaica. I wanted to touch on that. Thank you.
and it's a country of people with big hearts, but from the outside it looks impoverished. So when you go to Jamaica, traditionally, especially if you go and stay at a resort, they're going to put you in a van, and they're going to drive you over to the resort. And so you have to go through a whole bunch of stuff that looks impoverished. And I remember once, uh, either we were going to the resort or come back from the resort, and there was this on this corner. There was no other house; just a shack there, and the people were putting new dirt on the ground because their shack it was a dirt floor. They didn't have a concrete floor, and I thought to myself that I have to be really blessed that I can, have a regular floor. Now, those people living in their house, no matter what their story are, they're probably as happy can be because they don't know. But for us to actually be driving to $1 million resort, and then right outside the gates of that, somebody who has a dirt floor, that's a very touching thing. It's a very humbling thing,
Hmm.
because I could have been born in that situation too. And so it's important that people really understand that the ability to travel and see things is a privilege. Not everybody can experience those things. And so we have to, I try to, when I have time and I'm on vacation, I try to do some type of volunteer stuff, where I'm at, to give back, to be thankful that I'm able to do these things. And so that was like, that's really an important thing to me. So a lot of times when I do go for leisure, I do try to do some volunteer stuff.
What kind of things do you do? Not to draw attention to yourself, right? I don't mean it that way. Just curious. What opportunities are there when you go to places
So
to?
there are tons of it. So it can either be uh, going to a farm or working on a farm. There might be some elderly people who can't do as much as the daily chores. And so you go and you volunteer to whatever that may be, feeding pigs, or, you know, trying to chase birds, which is not the easiest thing in the world.
What?
Oh,
What does that mean?
well, when you're trying to,
Where did
get,
you do that?
I did that in Germany,
Okay.
and trying to get chickens. Sometimes I don't know this, and so you open up the gate and then they run out. They're like, how dogs are. I have a dog and the dog runs out the house. They're like that sometimes. They don't seem like that, but as soon as you open the gate, they want to get out because
Yeah.
somebody's keeping them in the gate. And so you let one out, and another one. So now you got to run around the yard to try to catch them which is not the easiest thing in the world. You're going to fall and you're going to hurt and scrape. But at the end, it's funny. It's very funny. I mean, because it's like you're trying to get this chicken that does not want to go. This bird that if he could fly, he would fly away, but he
Yeah.
can't. So all he can do is maybe a little bit off the ground and come right back down, and that was an experience within itself. I
How,
have, and
how
I think,
successful were you catching chickens?
well, I eventually did get the two, but it took a lot. It took a long time.
Yeah. Was
It
that a
took a
volunteer
long.
thing or just so you just happened to stumble into this?
No, it's a volunteer, so it's part of me wanting to, to give out, and so one of the programs that I participated in, they give you, you tell them how much you want to do
Yeah.
and how much time you got, and so they kind of pair you up with, okay, well, do you want to go and help this person, or you want to go help this person? And maybe into 15 minutes of trying to get that chicken back into the corral, I realized I probably should have said something else. But I committed. I'm a person who, if I commit to something, I'm gonna commit all the way.
Yeah.
So I was committed to it, and so I said, okay, I'm a, I said, at one point it was just like we were like the OK Corral. The chicken was over there looking. She was looking at me. I was looking at him, and didn't move because it's like she knew that I was trying to get him. This hen knew I was trying to get him, so it was kind of like I'm sitting on the ground. They're looking at me, sitting on the ground, looking at me like, okay, make your move. And so you have to be very strategic. Like, okay, do I fake them out? How do I get them?
You're drawing X's and O's in your mind.
Yes. And they're sitting there like, they watching me. Like, okay, what you gonna do? And that was, eventually I was able to get them, but it took a lot out of me, and then one of the ladies who was there, the older lady, she sat there and watched me go through all this and didn't say nothing. And then afterwards, she told me the simple way of doing it. And it's like, oh, why didn't you say nothing? She said, you just look so funny doing it. So I said, well, gee, thank you.
Oh,
That's very nice. I made, in Austria, we made cheese. We went to this this company that provided I think stable foods like bread and cheese and a couple of things for lower income families. And so we went and made cheese. I didn't really know cheese was that complicated, honestly. You we buy it in the store, don't think about it, but it's a kind of a complicated. It's a simple but complicated process. And I learned a lot about being patient and and doing things a certain way. It's almost like baking. If you're making a cake and you leave out the certain ingredients, although the cake looks great, it's going to be horrible because you didn't, you put salt, you didn't put sugar, or whatever case may be. It looks good, but it's not going to taste that great. And so the same thing goes with cheese. You have to follow the steps and you have to do them at a certain time. And if you don't do it, it's not going to turn out the way that you want it to do. And so it is definitely a lesson on patience.
yeah, it's amazing. And we take stuff like that for granted all the time, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
we do.
yeah, we just go to the store and buy it. It's done.
Yes. Yeah. And so that is the reason why traveling and doing things, having those experiences are really important.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I love. I love the experiences that, again, like I can't look it up on Google because nobody can explain it like the person who actually had it happen to them.
But the funny thing about it is that as you ask me these questions, there's things that I hadn't really thought about. And there are things that happen in your life that you just forget.
Yeah.
You kind of get put away somewhere else and you don't really think about it anymore. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that you've asked the question. So now that memory is in the front of my mind, I can go and revisit it.
Not gonna lie, it's part of my plan. But yeah, I just love it so much, and because through these conversations, I remember things that I have forgotten as well, and so I know that it works both ways, and that's part of why I love this. So, anything else you could think of? I know it's very open ended, and I hate to do it this way, but I don't want to force you into anything. Hey, tell me about this place. Tell me a memory there. When we've already
Yeah.
talked about a lot of places.
You know what? This is one thing probably people wouldn't necessarily know. When after I did my film Red All Over, I went through a divorce. Divorce is a very debilitating thing. You can't really function or just do anything. And so I was on a creative hiatus and I just couldn't really do anything because my mind wasn't there. So I started doing pet transport. I would take
Interesting.
animals to different parts of the world, and people would pay. People, pets are like people, kids. They would pay significant amounts of money to do that.
I
And
bet
I met
not just dogs, huh? Yeah, I mean, it was
no
all sorts of
dogs,
animals.
cats, hamsters, birds.
Hmm.
That's about the extent. I never take any snakes or anything like that. That,
Okay.
that was too much. But stuff that you can take in the cabin, pets that you can take in the cabin. So like small cats and small dogs, you could take in the cabin. That's what I would do. And you meet a lot of different people, and you get, people say, "Hey, can you take this animal to here?" And I said, "Okay, fine." I pick them up and take them, and they're just so intrigued the fact that that's actually a job for somebody to do, and also that I've reunited this pet, either a new pet or a loved one from somewhere else. I've reunited that with them. So I got to go to a lot of places, little small towns in Idaho that I would never have gone there. And ate at places. I have this app called Swarm. I believe that's the name of it. It used to be called something else, but it's called Swarm. And so what it does is that whenever you go somewhere, you check in, and it has like all these different categories of places you can check in. And so you get to see where people are going on a daily basis. So if like one day I'm in some small town in Idaho, and then the next day I'm on a plane, and now I'm in LA, or then the next day I'm somewhere in Colorado, you get to experience food and people in so many different levels, and little tiny places. I'm not talking about just the big cities. These little tiny places that I would normally never ever go to unless somebody told me to go there.
So you
So I
see
was
on
always fascinated.
there that that a lot of people are going to this little place or whatever, and so that's where you go.
No, that's where the pet needs to go to.
But that's what Swarm. No, I mean
Yeah. So,
once you're there.
once you're there, then I check in and say I'm in, Tiny Pete, Idaho, and I check in there, and then it tells you all the places you can eat and what people say about the place, and then you go and explore.
Huh.
So you go and explore, and like, oh, okay, well, I'm looking for a good sandwich or whatever, and they say, hey, there are two sandwich shops on Main Street, local.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for supporting local. I know where all the McDonald's and Wendy's are,
Sure. Sure.
but I don't know where these small mom and pop shops. So when you go to those small towns and you experience that, you experience the town and you experience the food, and you're sitting right in the places where the local people are, and so they're curious, and they're like, well, what are you doing here? Because I know all the 15 people that live in this town.
I'll go. Yeah.
You're here. Why are you here? And then you can have that whole conversation with them. So I thought the app was really good for that, but it also allowed me to connect with a lot of people and have a lot of stories. I'm going to tell you something about just being a filmmaker and being a storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
I am the sum part of all my experiences. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I go to develop characters and things, I'm pulling from experiences and people I know. Some people are composites. Some characters are composites. Other characters are individuals that I've met somewhere at some particular time that spoke something to me or did something good, bad, or indifferent. And I remember them. And so when I go develop characters, I start to draw from all these people that I met to create complex characters. So the traveling really helps me with that, to experience things. And it's not all about, honestly, it's not about good. Sometimes it's bad.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's bad experiences. But I'm a firm believer that everything that happens, anything for me is for me. So those experiences I needed to learn something, understand something. So when I go and write stories, they can be more complex because I've seen the complexity of life and people.
Yeah. Can you remember or tell me any experiences that you had meeting somebody in travels that maybe stood out to you in a way that maybe you connected with someone to a level where you even are still in touch today or anything like that?
Somebody that I still talk to today.
Or even somebody an interaction that just meant so much to you that you just remember it so well because it was just incredible, whether it's good or bad or.
I think my experience in Europe when I got lost, and the lady,
Hmm.
she helped pointing me in the right direction. I wouldn't have. I don't know. I mean, eventually I would have got myself back because, just
Yeah, right.
eventually. But the fact in that moment that I guess reached out in the universe and it heard my cry, and I was able to find that there is one guy that I do know someone. Okay. When I went to France once, I met this group. They were a pop group, and they were coming to the festival. They had like a bus that was all wrapped in, they was touring, and they spoke French and I couldn't really understand what they saying, but you find a commonality and you just kind of context clues.
Hmm.
And so I met them. It was a couple. They were part of a group, a husband, wife, and a group with other people, and they were really nice. And we just kept in touch through life. That I got to learn, be with them. They eventually had kids. They moved to another part of France. I'm not sure what the name was, but then they got a divorce. So I'm living all this stuff with them.
Yeah.
I'm literally living this stuff with him. He's upset with her, and she upset with him, and I'm trying to talk like it's not, don't worry about that, or why you do that. I'm having this relationship with them that I still have to this day. We don't get a chance to talk as much, but we obviously are Facebook friends. And one of the ladies, when she posts stuff, I always have to translate it, but she will respond to my posts and she'll say things. And then her husband, he's a musician, and I worked with him a couple of times on some stuff. So they will be ever part of my experience. They're probably one of the few things where there's someone that I still talk to this day from years ago or from a trip. Most of the time you see people, you say you're going to communicate with them, but you normally don't.
Yeah.
But that's probably the only ones that I've actually done that I can go and put my finger on and say, hey, I met you in France in this year at this time, and we have that in common. And although they're not together, and the kids are big now, it's crazy because they didn't have any kids when I met them.
Yeah.
Now they got big kids, and the fact, and she's remarried, I'm so connected to their family and their experiences. It's amazing. It's because I met them in France.
And how did that? I'm just curious. How did that happen with the language barrier? It's a lot of hand communication and whatever to form a bond like that.
So Americans are only the ones who don't speak other languages.
I know.
Because we live in a place where everything is connected and everybody speaks the same language. In Europe, it's not that way. Although we have states, their state, which is another country, speaks another language. So they're forced to be able to understand culture. They're forced to understand language. So they could speak some English, broken a little bit.
Okay.
I was the one who couldn't really speak as much. I took French in college and in high school, but not enough to, I can listen to you and understand what you're saying, or I can maybe read it, but actually verbalize it is a bit hard sometimes.
Yeah.
So I knew what they said. Now, as I went back home, we would communicate in either on Facebook, I would use a translator and things like that, so try to figure out what they were saying. But they spoke enough broken English that we could have a conversation.
Yeah. But how cool is that now? That, like, if you could literally, I'm sure, go back to France and say, hey, I'm going to be near you. Let's get together and hang out.
Yes. And so every time I'm in that part of the world, I do. I have to do it differently now because she's married and they're not together anymore.
Yeah.
But I make time for both of them. I make some time for both of them. When I'm in France, I make time for both of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, I think we're getting close. I just want to offer you the opportunity. I'm sure you're exhausted of thinking of things. Anything pop into your head? Any stories from anywhere that we've touched on, or anything else that's triggered something else that you want to mention before we get to our final 5 questions? I'm not in any hurry. I just don't want to push you. You've had a long day.
I believe it's okay. My day is usually long. I think I've pretty much talked about everything that I can. I mean, if you say something, it'll spur a memory, but off the top of my head, I think those are things that are meaningful to me.
Yeah.
There are things that mean something, that has significance to where, and then a lot of things that I don't, you don't really think about. It's not until later on that you have a conversation with somebody, and it's like, I guess that did mean something to me, or the way somebody said something, it kind of spurs things. There are conversations. I do lots of interviews, and so what happens is that people ask me a question I hadn't really thought about. Like today, somebody asked me a question that I had never thought about. She asked me, if you could remake a television show from your childhood, what would it be? I had no idea to answer that question because nobody's ever asked me that.
That's a great question.
It is, and it's like, it's like, oh, okay, so. Now that she's asked that question, it's now in my wheelhouse since I know how to respond to it. But at the time, it was not something I really know what to do. So if you ask me something, it may spur something. So as we go into these final questions, I'm sure something will be spurred.
What was your answer?
I didn't really have, I have one now, but I didn't really have, what I told her was that I have a film that's part of a series called Ebony Hustles, Ebony Hustle and Ebony Hustle 2, which we're about to do Ebony Hustle 3. And it's about a stripper who turns into a private investigator. And I was telling her about my favorite movie, which is Yentl with Barbara Streisand. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Jeez,
But
I
the
don't think I
story is
am.
about a woman who it's a period piece. It's a woman who wanted to, in Eastern Europe, she wanted to study the Torah, the Bible, but it was forbidden for women to do that. And so her father would teach her in silence about the Torah. And once he passed away, they wanted her to just to go and, get married and just kind of do what you're expected to do. And she didn't want to do that. So she left and she cut her hair off, lived as a boy going to Bible school. And so everybody thought she was a boy. She came up with a name. My name Yentl. And she lived that. The problem with that she ran into is that she fell in love. She fell in love with her roommate, who was a guy, but he was in love with this other woman. But the woman that he was in love with was in love with Yentl.
Oh my gosh.
So crazy triangle. But it was about a woman who knew what she wanted.
Yeah.
She's very clear about what she wanted to do, and she wasn't going to let anybody step in. And so when I did create the character of Ebony, Ebony was a woman, although she was a stripper who had expectations about that, she was not going to let anybody tell her how to dictate her life. And so that was kind of pretty much my response to what she asked me.
So what's your answer now? Will you share?
Probably right now, the funny thing about it is this. One of my friends who's a producer, she just got the rights to redo Barbershop, the show from Amazon. It's MGM, but Amazon. And she announced it maybe a couple of days ago. That would probably have been something I would want to do. I would want to redo that. Because the way I got started in this business was by George Tillman, who was the guy who directed Barbershop. So when he got out of film school, he was the guy who gave me a job on his first films. And so it would have been really kismet for me to do that. If I had known it was available, I would probably went for it, but I just didn't know it was available. So, but I'm happy for her that she's able to bring that to fruition.
That's cool. Didn't she say TV show though?
Yeah, she did.
Okay. I'll let it go. I'll let it go. Hey, did we touch on the Cayman Islands and I missed it?
No, we did not talk about the Cayman Islands.
I didn't think so. What can you tell me about the Cayman? It's another place I don't know anything about.
It's relaxing. Like most islands in that part of the world, their economy is based off of tourism for the most part. It's based off of a more luxury tourism. There is some mid-level, but most of it's luxury tourism. So you don't really get the crowdedness per se. You get more people who are spending a little bit more money, and they're a little bit more selective about their expectations about what they experience from it. I thought that the Cayman Islands was very beautiful. The water is just beautiful. It's amazing how when you leave America, how clean and crisp the water is.
Mm.
And it's so amazing how that is, and how the food, without all the pesticides, how the food, even the fruit is just so fresh. It's just amazing, And so I thought it was probably one of the places that I visit that I felt the most relaxed, that I was able to actually just sleep and just be. And I don't really get that a lot of places, but the Cayman Islands allowed me to be just be.
And that was a vacation, not a work trip.
Yeah, that was a vacation, not a work. Although I did end up toward the end do some emails and everything, but I tried to stay true to the vacation the first couple of days or so.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, well, let's do the 5 questions. I tell everybody if something does trigger in your mind or something comes, that you want to mention, you're by all means welcome to.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the bad part, John, is you've already answered half of them. So maybe I'm wrong and maybe you have different answers, but we'll see. Okay. Well, number 1 and number 2, I don't think you've answered. So number 1 is, of all the places in the world that you have been outside of your home, what's your favorite meal? And I'll add memory to that because it's not necessarily about the food, but it can be. So what's your favorite, most memorable meal you've had anywhere in the world outside of home?
Probably the most favorite meal is probably in Portugal. And this is the crazy thing about it. It was in an Asian restaurant. I don't know that food. I don't know if I was just having a really good trip, but the food was just, you ever taste something that just tastes so fresh?
Yeah.
As if they grew the rice or they grew the onions themselves. it was just so fresh, and it was just like everything, like the meat was like properly seasoned, the sauces was mixed really well. Everything just tastes almost to the point to where you want to lick your plate, but you can't do that in a restaurant. That's how great it was. I had no leftovers, and usually you have leftovers. Oh, I'm full again, but it was just the right portion size. The food and everything was so good that I hate that I didn't have any leftovers.
Do you remember the food specifically, but do you remember the atmosphere and just the feeling of being there as well?
It wasn't a lot of people in the restaurant. It was myself and my girlfriend at the time, and maybe two other couples. It was somewhat dimly lit, not really dark, but just dimly lit. And I remember them having like ceramic type floors, because when the waitress would come, her shoes would make a certain sound, like a clickety clock sound. But they had the windows were floor to ceiling windows, and so you can kind of see out on the main street and all the traffic and everything. But it was I think just the atmosphere in between the food and the service was just really good. It was very inviting. They were very efficient, but they also were very welcoming. And so whenever they suggest things like wines or anything like that, because the atmosphere was so nice, I said yes.
Yeah.
I said yes to a lot of stuff that I normally would probably say no to. I said yes.
Yes. And that's, first of all, I think that's wonderful because I think it shows that, yes, the food and the preparation and the ingredients, everything is so important, but there's more to it for an experience, right?
Yes.
One of the things that I do try to do, especially outside of the United States, but even inside, doesn't matter where I go. If I'm in a place for a few days and I just want to eat the best possible meal, I always ask the server, always, what is your number one thing that you eat on this menu? Not the most popular item. What do you eat?
Yeah.
And if it's something that I'm game to try, which I'm game to try most everything, heck, I had guinea pig in South America. I'll try it. So,
what does that taste like?
I can't describe it as far as relating it to another type of meat. It was very tender, very moist, a lot of bones to pick through. But I don't know if it was just the seasoning that they used. It was so worth it, and I would actually have it again. Yeah, the whole meal was fantastic. It came with seasoned potatoes and some other things. It was all really, really wonderful.
Interesting.
But, yeah. Okay. Question number 2. This is my favorite. Of all the places in the world that you have been, if I offered you a free trip, where would you say, I am good, I don't want to go back? Good or bad, but where would you not go back?
Not go back. I don't think I have a place that I would not go back to.
Even just, I've done it and I don't need
to. You mean as far as just experiences that I've...
Well, whatever. I mean, again, if there is no place no place you would not go back to, that's fine.
Well, probably the only place I could think of is maybe Wales. I mean, that was nice and everything, but there is no, like, if you ask me the place that I want to go back to, which I always love going to, is London. I love going to London, so I always have a reason to go back there, but I don't really have a reason to go to Wales. If I had to pick a place, it would be like, when you get they play those games, pick one of these 4 things that you can throw away with. I don't have to go back to Wales.
Okay. But maybe if it was free, maybe you would try to explore a different area or something, because it's a free trip. It's worth trying.
Yes, it's not that big.
Yeah. Well, maybe you get into some soccer or something over there. Okay. Question 3, flipping it over. Of all of the places in the world that you have been, where do you absolutely have to go back?
Like I said, I was going to go back to London. London is probably my go-to. If I got some time and it's a possibility, if a client says, hey, we're thinking about doing this thing in London, yes, I'm going. I don't know. I don't care what it is.
You don't even have to pay me. I'll be there. Just fly me over.
That's right. Just need a plane ticket. Let me get over there, and everything else, I'll figure it out. Yeah, so that would probably be the place that I would go to without even thinking about it.
Have you ever I don't know if you have. Have you ever just gone over to Europe and just bounced around?
I would like to do that. You know what the funny thing about that? I had this conversation with my girlfriend a couple of weeks ago, and she said that she's game for it. I was surprised she said that. She's, some people say stuff, they don't really know what they say, but I am going to take her up on that. We're going to go for a couple of weeks. Haven't figured out when we're going to do it, but we're going to go.
Okay, wait, hold that thought. Hold that thought. We may be spoiling. Okay, we may be
Oh,
spoiling.
okay. Oh, okay. All right. But that is probably something I want to do. There is this website, and I can't think of the name of it, where you go and they ask you questions about travel, and they pick the place for you, but you don't know until you get to the airport.
No.
Yes, and so they have picked the place to tell you they plan everything out for you, airline, everything, and you tell them about how much you want to spend and everything, and they plan everything out for you. And when you get to the airport, that's when you find out where you're going.
That's incredible. Please email me that once you find it.
Yes. Yeah, I do, because they sent me a whole thing about it, and we ended up not going because the time wasn't right. But yeah, it was like, this is like perfect. And so I didn't know. I gave her all this criteria, and what she wanted to do, what I want to do, because people have different ideas of our vacation. What do you like to leisure? Do you like to sightsee? Do you want to eat? And they ask a lot of questions, and then they make up a trip for you.
What I mean, that is a travel story in itself. Where are you? Hey, where are you going? You got 3 weeks off. Where are you going? I don't know.
I just need to be at the airport at 6:00 in the morning on this day.
Yeah, exactly. That is so incredible. Oh, I want to check that out so bad. Okay. Maybe I'll get them to be a sponsor. Anyway, all right. Where was I? Question. I just asked you where you must go again. So, of all the places in the world that you have not been, and like I said, some of these I think you kind of answered. Where do you absolutely have to go? One or two places. Where do you absolutely have to go that you've never been?
Well, I got a trip next year planned to Marrakesh. I've never been to Africa before. And so I want to go there to experience that, to just see, the difference in just, I want to be a part of that. I want to see what that's about, to taste the foods, the spices, to see the people, get some sand in my shoes. I want to experience all that.
You like the beach?
Do I like the beach? I'm not against the beach. I'm not a person that needs to see water all the time. I'm okay with it. It's an experience. I don't like being cold, so hot is more preferable. So the desert, I can deal with the desert. I can deal with the heat more necessarily than the water per se, but they're both equally as important. But if I had to choose, it'd probably be the desert over the beach.
Interesting. Very interesting. But I get it. Nice. All right. Final question. You know the answer. You've already mentioned some, maybe not all. What is on the docket? What do you have planned? So you've told us some. Is there anything else in the near future this year that you have planned already?
So the only thing I have planned this year is to go to a family reunion with my family. But in the fall time, I usually take a sporadic trip. So depending on how much time I have, I usually, a week or two before that, I usually just pick somewhere. Do like a Google pick and say, okay, during this time, this is probably the best place to go. I also usually do something on my birthday. I'm going to be 55 this year. So I have to try to figure out, I've been thinking about it. I got some ideas, but I haven't settled any particular on anything. Maybe I might go to Asia or something in that particular reason. I have not made a determination yet.
Interesting. And then you already told us next year. Is that like that's the big plans you have for next year?
Yeah, Marrakesh is my big trip next year.
Yeah. And I'm sure you'll probably have some other travels for things for work or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't necessarily count the work stuff only because I don't really get a chance to experience. I always try to experience the food, but I don't really get a chance to experience. But when I go on vacation, I get to really experience and really talk to people. I get to talk when we're shooting something. I get to talk to people, but we do have conversations in between shooting and things of that sort. But to really experience it without any other pressure or anything else, vacations are the best thing for that.
Yeah. Do you try? It sounds like you do. I think you've kind of mentioned it to some degree. You try to get off the beaten path, right? When you go places.
Yes. So I try to eat. I try to eat where everybody else eat. I try not to stay, as long as it's not a safety issue. I try not to stay with everybody. I'm a big Airbnb fan. I'm not a real big staying in hotels. I don't necessarily need that, but I like to because I like the space when you stay in an Airbnb. But if you go stay in an Airbnb, you get to go in the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
You know, you get to see the corner stores, you get to see the people, regular people going to work. You know, you get to talk to a neighbor
Yeah.
where they can give their experiences or what they think you should and shouldn't do, whatever the case may be. So you get to have more of an experience
And
from
walk,
that aspect.
right? Walk as much as you
Yes.
can, right?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
I
One
mean,
of the cities that is really big in is probably New York because once you park your car, you shouldn't move it ever
that's
until it's
exactly
time
right.
to go.
Yeah. If you're
Don't
there
move
for
your car.
a week or less, you just park it and pay. Park
That's
it and
right.
pay.
Because if you move it, you're either not going to have a space or it's just going to be astronomical
Yep.
for that moment
I
for
don't
you to
care if
park
it's
somewhere
25
else.
bucks a night, you park it and pay.
That's right. That is right.
Yep. I don't blame you. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. And I mean that literally. It wasn't because I wanted to leave the city. I had to go super fast or I was going to get run over. So did we trigger anything in those last few questions or are you set?
I think I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm sure later on tonight I will think of something, but at this moment, I think that those were all the insightful experiences that I had that mean something to me.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some other experiences that I would not tell, but other than that, there are some very good. There was experiences, like I said to you before about travel. Travel really is about more of experiences for me,
Yep.
and finding ways to learn something from it, learn something about myself, and I just have the experience. John Mayer has this song called 3x5, and it talks basically about that he's not going to take any pictures. Maybe next time you can come and experience it with him, but he's not going to take any 3x5s because when you at that moment when you take a picture, you're taking away from your experience.
I
That's the
love
way he
it.
says in the music. And so maybe the next time I go somewhere, you can experience this with me. So I don't have to give you a postcard. I don't have to take a picture because you saw with your own eyes.
Yeah, I love that. And I've talked about it in a different episode, maybe once or twice, about how I think there's a fine line for people who are traveling because you do want to capture some memories, right? Some places that you may never see again. So you do want to capture those, if for no other reason than when you look back later, it can trigger the memories. But
Mm-hmm.
if you do it too much, I think you lose a lot. And so
Yeah.
I see people, especially younger people, not judging or anything or stereotyping, but that are just constantly on their phones trying to get that great Instagram shot. And you know
Yeah.
what? Just put your phone away and just experience it because you're only here for a limited amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's
Be in
some
the
of
moment.
my best memories are inside my mind, and I can experience those over and over again that I have no pictures of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I can tell stories to my kids, but those experiences were for me.
Yeah.
They weren't necessarily for anybody else. They were for me,
Yeah.
and so
And I can
I
appreciate
remember
that.
I remember I was in New York last year around this time. I was directing a movie, and I stayed in New Jersey. And the street that I was staying on in the neighborhood, it was a really hilly like street. Like it was a deep incline. But if you stood in the middle of the street, you can see the New York skyline as clear as day. It was like one of those moments where if you want to take that type of picture, you could take it and see the skyline. And I'm all the way on the other side of the river, and that would I would go there every day after we shot right before sunset and just stand there and look.
Hmm.
I know people was trying to figure out what I was doing because I'm standing in the middle of the street, but I can see the skyline. I could see the whole city from the middle of this street.
And there weren't like a whole bunch of people taking advantage of that. It just
No,
was
because it was a
there.
neighborhood.
It was
Because
there for
they live
you.
with.
It was there for you.
Yeah, because the people who lived in the neighborhood, they walk out the house and see it all the time. This
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was an experience that I didn't have to share to anybody. And I may have taken a picture. I'm not sure if I had to go back and look at my pictures, but it was just one of those things to where it's like, wow. And the first time I saw it, it was kind of like, wow, there's New York over there. And after a couple of days of, just working, and you just realize that's New York over there.
Yeah. That's a great way to end, John. I appreciate this time so much. This was really excellent. I love talking with you. You've got a great personality. You're a great storyteller, and I need to check out some of your stuff, more of your stuff, and I will definitely be a longtime supporter of the things that you have going on. So, thank you.
I appreciate that. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
I hope you had fun.
Thank you. I did. I always, I appreciate people allowing me on their platform because you said yes to me and and you said no to somebody else. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Take care. We'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you. Stay focused.
And there's another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast in the books. Thank you so much for listening today. It was another great guest with some great stories, as always, and I hope that you will support all of the guests by checking out the show notes and going to their web pages, seeing any socials and projects that they may have going on. And please, again, I'll ask as always to like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really does help to allow the podcast to grow and reach more people, and I appreciate you for doing that. Also, if you haven't done so, check out the website, whybpodcast.com, where you can find blog posts. If you'd like to be a guest, please register to be a guest on the site, and check out the merch page. There's some really cool stuff if you're interested in representing the pod, along with some other cool travel items and apparel that I'm working on every day as well. Join me again next week for another great guest with more incredible stories. New episodes drop every Sunday just after midnight Eastern Time. Until then, thank you for being here, and have a great day.